righty. This is gonna bug me all day. I'm telling you. Sometimes it's this phone right here that sometimes doesn't work. So I can hear myself out of both ears.
Oh,
but
man.
if you talk to me, I can only hear you out of this one. So
Yeah,
if
that's
you're
not
a
fun.
listener and you're and put it in the comments so I can fix it because it's driving me crazy. So anyway, welcome to the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It is great to have you here on another Monday evening. Plenty of stuff to cover today. This is episode 67, so you know what that means. It's full brain rot. We've got everything going on right now. Dalton, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's been a very busy few weeks for me. We had our baby shower last weekend and kind of just catching back up on things, but excited to talk tonight because there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we haven't been on for a couple weeks, so there's a lot to cover and a lot of really recent stories to cover too. So, but yeah, man, I'm doing well.
Did you golf today?
No, I just happened to have a polo on. I did golf over the weekend though.
I did. I did too. And it's
Nice.
The weather's finally starting to get nice in New York. It got hot for a week, and then it went back to being cold, and now I think we're starting to get the better weather again. It was gorgeous out today. But we have plenty of stuff to go over today. I named the show this week the NL Least, and as corny as that is, it does sort of ring true. The Mets and the Phillies both at the bottom of the league as far as record is concerned in the early going of the season. We're almost a month through, and the Mets and the Phillies just have not been able to pick up steam. Alex Cora getting fired by the Red Sox along with several of his coaches. That's obviously a massive story, knowing where the Red Sox are right now in the AL East. They're sitting in last place, them getting swept by the Yankees at Fenway. So certainly not a great look there. We'll discuss that. And then we have a little bit of buy or sell a little bit later, Dalton. That should be fun. I love when we do that. Plus, do you by any chance, I don't know if you do, I don't know if you prepared it this week. I'm putting you on the spot. Do we have an update on our draft right now?
I don't have one prepared. I can try to put it together while we're talking, but I don't have that prepared now.
Okay. All right. So listen, I wouldn't sweat it. We could always do it next week. I'm pretty sure you're still kicking my butt. I don't, I still kind of am not very confident, but anyway, we have plenty to go over today. But first, as we do every week, we rant about our own teams. Dodgers, Yankees. Dalton, you are the two-time defending champ. You get to go first. Give me the Dodger rant, my friend.
Yeah, it's they've been playing relatively middling baseball since we last spoke. They're 5-5 in their last 10, not really setting the world on fire, but it's hard for me to complain when the team's 19-9 and they've done that with, now Edwin Diaz shelved, Mookie Betts has been on the injured list, and then, Ohtani, Tucker, Freeman, these guys are not really carrying the load the way you might have expected, and yet the team is still in a really good spot. I think the big story for the Dodgers this year has been the starting pitching so far. People are not surprised to see Yamamoto pitching well or Ohtani pitching well, or even Glasnow for that matter. And all three of them have been really good, but Emmett Sheehan has turned a corner and started to pitch better over the last couple weeks. And Mike, if the season ended right now, Justin Robleski would legitimately be top 3 in the NL for Cy Young. He's been that kind of good so far this season. Again, yesterday came out through 6 scoreless innings against a really good Cubs lineup. And it's just been kind of the same thing for him every time out so far this season. If you looking at his line, he's now 4-0 with a 1.5 ERA. And it feels like it's only getting better. I mean, you look at his last 3 starts, 8 scoreless against the Mets, 7 innings of 1-run ball at Coors Field, and then 6 scoreless against the Cubs. At this point, when Snell is healthy and, the Dodgers continue to have more options, I don't see how you move him out of the rotation. I think he's he belongs in the rotation. I think he's shown that. If anything, I think, Roki Sasaki, even though he started to look a little bit better, might be the guy to lose his spot, or Emmett Sheehan, depending on how much lease the Dodgers want to give Roki. But certainly a plethora of options for the Dodgers in the rotation, because at some point River Ryan will be healthy. At some point you hope Gavin Stone will be healthy. So, look, things are going relatively well. The bullpen has started to show some of the cracks we saw last year, but all in all, like, the team's in really good shape. They're mashing righties. They're doing what they do. One note that I do want to give from the weekend: Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs this weekend. And this is sort of adjacent to my Dodgers rant. It's just a message for both Pete Crow Armstrong and Craig Counsell. And my message to both of them is, shut up. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, Pete Crow Armstrong, preseason, totally unprompted, just starts mouthing off about Dodger fans, talking about how he thinks they're fair weather fans, how they're all celebrities. First of all, Pete, you went to Harvard Westlake. You're from LA. You're from one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in LA. I'm not surprised that you think that everyday Angelinos are, thugs or whatever else you think of them. Just, I don't need to hear it from you. Then he comes to LA Friday night. The Cubs win. He's chirping at fans from the dugout, asking them where they went at the end of the game. From there on in the series, he went about 1 for 10, made a crucial error in center field. Cubs lost the next 2 games. So I don't know. Maybe PCA should worry a little bit more about his OPS hovering around 600 and a little bit less about Dodger fans. When it comes to Craig Counsell, I've got some words for him too. Just continuing to double down on his bitching and moaning, I think, is the best way I can put it, about the Shohei Ohtani rule that, oh, by the way, is in its 7th year of existence. And Craig, you've been a manager every single one of those 7 years. I wonder why you're just having a problem with it now. Little weird. Anyway, hopefully after going into Dodger Stadium and seeing their 10-game win streak evaporate and getting humbled, maybe both PCA and Craig Counsell can shut the hell up.
There you go. I haven't heard that fire come out of you in a while.
I mean, it's enough. The Dodgers don't like nobody's talking about PCA or Craig Counsell on our side. And then you've got all these Cubs fans on Twitter today. They're just doing all these lip reads and trying to come up with stuff that they think Dalton Rushing is yelling at. Like, you don't know what he's saying there. Like, can we stop with this? It's just the Cubs, to me, like, you're a respected franchise in this game, right? You're a franchise that people know travels well. You're a franchise with history. Don't act like the Padres. You don't need to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Oh,
I just had to get it off my chest. People needed to hear it.
Listen, man. I love that. I'm happy that you were able to kind of air that out. Like I said, we haven't heard like a very animated Dalton in quite some time. I don't think it's been fairly laid back from you.
I needed something to set me off.
It's the polo. I think that's what it is. I think that's the change. Yeah. So everything you said is 100% true. They play tonight, by the way, against the Marlins at Dodger Stadium. Chris Paddock, Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the bump. So that'll be a good one to watch tonight. All right, let's talk about the Yankees for a minute. I think the last 2 weeks will be indicative of what the Yankees season is probably going to look like. I think there's really going to be a lot of hot and a lot of cold. Before losing last night in the series finale against the Astros, they had won 8 straight before that. They swept the Royals at home. They swept the Red Sox on the road. And then again, they took 2 out of 3 against the Astros in Houston. And now they're starting a 3-game series in Texas against the Rangers. So here's really my thing. The Yankee offense is going to be what this team lives and dies on, because throughout the entire year so far, even when they were struggling, their pitching has been phenomenal, right? They have one of the best starting pitching ERAs in baseball, if not the best. Schlittler's been amazing. Fried's been amazing. Will Warren has been amazing. Ryan Weathers has been really good as well. They're getting length out of their starters. They're really minimizing the use of their bullpen in any way they can. I mean, they've had a lot of guys have a lot of rest, especially over the last couple of last week or so. So there certainly is something hitting right now with the Yankee rotation. Really, outside of Luis Heel, he just got optioned ever since the injury. He certainly has just not been able to find that same groove. I'm sure the injury has a lot to do with that. Um, and I just kind of get the feeling, Dalton, that like once the Yankee rotation starts getting healthy, right? Like once Rodon gets back, once Cole gets back, even like later on in the year when Clark Schmidt gets back, like Luis Heal's just going to he's either going to be relegated to AAA or he's going to be relegated to a bullpen role. Like, I just don't know that he's going to hold his spot in the rotation for very long. Because again, like Ryan Weathers and Will Warren are both pitching great. One of those guys is going to lose their spot in the rotation too. So, I just don't know where the spot is. Listen, the way that the Yankee offense looks right now is what a lot of people feared at the beginning of the season, right? This is a team that's going to hit a lot of homers. They're going to hit. They're relying heavily on power, right? You look at what they are this year. Again, they're fourth in the league in slugging. They're fifth in the league in OPS. They're second in homers. Like they're hitting the ball hard a lot. Tied for fifth in runs per game, but they're 23rd in hits and they're 20th in average. Like they're not really manufacturing runs. They're just hitting it out of the ballpark a lot. And that's really what they're relying on here. So that there's a sustainability issue with that. And everybody, I think, knows that with that sort of aspect of baseball. So listen, it's tough to complain over the last week of Yankee baseball that we've had. So they're 18-10. They're in first place. That's obviously a good place to be. But again, it's the sustainability part of it. Can their pitching again continue this? And I think it could, based on who they have in there. Can they maintain this level of dominance? And I think, again, like I said, the past 2 weeks where they were really struggling and then got really hot again, I think that's going to be what the Yankee season is going to be like. It's just going to be a lot of hot and cold, a lot like it was last year. I think that's what we're going to be in for right now.
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes a ton of sense. And the Yankees sort of peripherals, if you would call them that, reflect exactly what you're saying. I mean, this is a team that, you look overall in baseball, WRC plus, they're sitting right at fifth. So this has been one of the premier offenses in the sport. When you filter by strikeout percentage, though, they're striking out 24.3% of their bats. That's also top five in baseball in terms of most strikeouts. So That's kind of who they are. It's a boomer bust offense that's going to hit a lot of homers. They're going to strike out a lot. They're probably going to walk a lot too. And I mean, to some degree, that's the modern game. It is fair to question like how that looks in the postseason as pitching improves. And I think this is something that the Dodgers struggled with back in like 2021, 2022, even in the late teens, where you had a lot of boomer bust, and it felt like all of a sudden when you need to put innings together, it can be hard to do that. But it's hard to complain, right? I mean, the team is hitting as like they've been one of the best offenses in baseball this season. WRC plus as a team is 112 is awesome. What sticks out to me too with the Yankees, Mike, like from a starting pitching and a bullpen perspective, expected FIP, number one starting rotation in baseball this season at 3.38. If I filter it by the bullpens, they're sitting at number 6. So, I mean, like whether you're a boomer bust offense or whether you're an offense that pieces things together, if you're going to be a top 10 offense and a top 5 pitching staff, you're going to win a lot of ball games. And mind you, those starting pitching numbers are before Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole return, and it's been with Luis Heel in the rotation. So, I mean, I think you said preseason that you thought the Yankees would be the class of the American League. They actually are, I think, so far, and I expect that probably to continue.
Yeah. Well, listen, from your lips to God's ears, I hope that that's really the case. All right, let me give you a score update before we head into everything else. No games finished today. The Angels and White Sox are in a delay. That's in Chicago. Rays up on the Guardians right now. That's in Cleveland. They're up 3-2 in the bottom of the eighth. The Pirates right now are up 2-0 on the Cardinals in the top of the seventh. They are throwing a combined perfect game through 6 innings against the Cardinals. So how do you like them apples?
Well, yeah, and Mike, if you're wondering who in our fantasy league had the foresight last night to pick up Wilbur Dotel for today, who pitched 4 of those perfect innings, that would be yours truly. So I saw it coming.
Oh, it's amazing too. It really is. So yes, the Pirates right now are combined perfect gaming the Cardinals right now in Pittsburgh. They're up 2-0. Red Sox with a 1-0 lead over the Blue Jays. That's in Toronto, and they're in the top of the fifth. Twins with a 1-0 lead over the Mariners in Minnesota. They're heading into the third. And then later tonight, 9:40 on the East Coast, the Cubs against the Padres. That's in San Diego. Matthew Boyd against Randy Vasquez. Randy Vasquez has been pretty good so far for the Padres this season. 1.88 ERA on the season for him. And the Marlins and Dodgers, like I said, that's at Dodger Stadium. Chris Paddock and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That is at around 10 o'clock Eastern later tonight. Okay.
Yeah, Mike, one game I want to point out there that you mentioned, the Red Sox, we're going to talk about them plenty here, but I'm pretty surprised and encouraged for them to see Ranger Suarez through 4 hitless innings in Toronto. I was concerned about him going into the start. If they can pick up a win in a Ranger Suarez versus Dylan Cease game, that's a good sign for them. Although I think we're going to have some negative things to say about them coming up here.
Yeah, Ranger Suarez has had a fairly mediocre start to his Red Sox tenure. 27 innings pitched so far this season before this game with a 4 ERA flat, 19 strikeouts. Yeah, he's, again, in 5 starts, 1-2 record. He has, again, it's been very pedestrian for him after getting that big contract coming over from Philadelphia. Let's jump right into that. Alex Cora getting fired by the Red Sox after being swept by the Yankees. And they actually fired him after a win against the Orioles. But again, this is a team that is off to a very bad start. They're 7 games back already in the AL East. They're 11-17 on the year. They're in last place in their division. They just don't look all that collected. I remember Dalton, I forget how long ago, it might have been 2 weeks ago or something like that, where the Red Sox were visiting Minnesota and you were at the game and you looked at that lineup and you were just like, I got to be honest with you. I don't know that you were even saying, you're like, I don't even know that I was right about the Red Sox. If these young kids don't perform, there's just not much here. There's not a lot to really hang your hat on. And I think that's a lot of what the Red Sox are seeing right now. They're just, I don't know. They're not very good. They're offensively just not very good. And it's not like their pitching is picking up a whole ton of the slack. It just hasn't been a good start for the Red Sox. Do you think at this point, it was the right move for the Red Sox to move on from their manager?
Absolutely not.
Ooh, interesting.
I think at some point, and apparently we're not there yet, although you'd think we would have been there maybe sometime last year. At some point, Craig Breslow needs to take a look in the mirror and take some accountability for what he's built or maybe what he's failed to build there. I think it's when you look at that lineup, and this is kind of what you were just touching on, they are extremely reliant on 22-year-old Roman Anthony to be not just decent, but a star. And he, so far this season, has been okay, but he's looked like a 22-year-old. That's a lot to put on that guy. And he still might end up being a star, but he's not one right at this moment. And with him not being one, it's a lot of how far can Wilson Contreras and Caleb Durbin take an offense? Well, it turns out not all that far. It's just not a very intimidating lineup right now. And, when you think about, did Alex Cora trade away Mookie Betts or Xander Bogaerts, or did Alex Cora lowball Alex Bregman? No. The reality is that a lot of the talent on the offensive side has just either been traded away or allowed to walk out the door by Craig Breslow. And we talked about this last year when the Devers stuff was first bubbling up, and how there were disagreements between Cora and Breslow and disagreements between Devers and Breslow. The common denominator in a lot of their issues is that this, to me, is a GM that's just in over his skis. Like, I just don't think he knows what he's doing. I think he's overplayed his hands at times. I think he's been a little too scared and not being willing to go overboard to get guys at times. And my I guess optimism for the Red Sox preseason was mostly around the fact that I felt they built a really good rotation. Well, Garrett Crochet has been pretty human so far this year. Sonny Gray is hurt. Ranger Suarez just has not been the same guy as in Philly. I think it's fair to question, like, do they know what they're doing there in the front office? And does ownership care? Like, John Henry hasn't said anything since Alex Cora has been fired. So it feels like I'll say this about Alex Cora. Like, he's well respected around the game as an elite manager. Like, people around the game were very surprised by this. And I would go out on a limb and say there are 15 to 20 teams that, if it wasn't like totally politically incorrect to do, would fire their manager tomorrow if Alex Cora wanted to be their manager. Yeah. So to me, this is Craig Breslow continuing to not have to face any accountability for just not building a winning roster. And this time, Alex Cora, the World Series winning manager and well-respected baseball man, was the fall guy.
Yeah. So here's my perspective on this. And again, like, I will say, I definitely think Alex Cora is a good major league manager. I will give him that. As a Yankee fan, right, I am certainly not going to sit here and be an Alex Cora apologist. I'm just not. I can't stand him. I've never been able to stand him. So I am not going to be the guy that's like, oh, they didn't, it's not fair to hit. Like, no, F him.
You feeling that way is a feather in his cap, though.
I'm sure it is, and that's fine. But I don't care. I don't like him. So, whatever. But in this case, in this scenario, I agree with you. I don't think that Alex Cora is the root of the Red Sox problems, right? This goes beyond what they're doing. This is absolutely an ownership problem. 1,000%. Everybody that I know that either talks Red Sox or loves the Red Sox has the same issue right now with the Red Sox. It is John Henry. It is the Fenway Sports Group. It is like that ownership group right now that has control of the Red Sox simply does not treat that organization as a top tier organization. They do not. They don't do it. And they haven't for a long time, Dalton. I mean, obviously, the Dodgers are one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. Obviously, getting Mookie Betts for however long you've had him now. I mean, they just simply do not care about winning. They don't. Heimblum came in there, rebuilt their farm system, and now it's going to go squandered because they won't spend the money to surround it, right? I mean, you're right. Roman Anthony, again, I think Roman Anthony is going to be a very good major league player. He's got a 669 OPS on the season right now. Like, I think he's going to be good, but you're right. He's a kid. Like, he's got to have to, take the time to adjust to major league pitching because it's just a different animal, right? Marcelo Meyer has a 651 OPS, right? Carlos Narvaez has a 604 OPS. Like, you're talking about guys that they have a lot of faith in coming up. Outside of Wilyer Abreu and Wilson Contreras, nobody on that offense is hitting right now. And they were a team that, again, we talked about it a lot over the beginning of the season. They were going to rely a lot on the depth of that rotation, right? They were going to look at the Ranger Suarez. They were going to look at Garrett Crochet, Sonny Gray, Brian Bayo. They were going to look at those guys to really carry the load for them. And again, they've been fairly mediocre to start this season. So if they're not finding ways to produce runs with a bunch of young kids, they're simply not going to win baseball games. And again, it goes, like I said, so much deeper into the, like, all right, Betts is gone. They traded Rafi Devers last season because they mishandled that situation, right? They didn't bring back Alex Bregman because they mishandled that situation. Like, it's just, it goes so deep. And I think Alex Cora, as much as I don't like him, was not the root of their problem. So it does, like, if people are going to, if the Red Sox are expecting the firing of Alex Cora to somehow improve their season, I think they're 1,000% crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that could end up being really frustrating with this too, Mike, is like the reality is that their season might go better than it was moving forward. That doesn't but that doesn't necessarily mean there's cause and effect here. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like at the end of the day, their Pythagorean is like, I think it's like 14 and 15 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've played like a roughly average team and they've lost some close games and they're 11 and 17, but like 11 and 17 is not 9 and 24. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this is like to me, this is also just an overreaction to circumstances in general. Like this is a bad start, but like it is not even May 1st, man. Like I just to fire a World Series winning manager with his reputation, to me, it just sounds like Craig Breslow and that, or like John Henry and Craig Breslow want to point the finger downward and not take any accountability. That's all I see happening.
I agree with you 100%. It is the lack of the ownership group. If I can just surmise it in one phrase, it is just their ownership group not treating the franchise like it is a premier franchise in baseball. They are simply not doing it. Like the Red Sox are perfectly capable of being the Yankees and being the Mets, and the Mets and Dodgers might have, capabilities above most teams, but at least being one of the upper echelon of teams that are committing to win, right? Like the Red Sox have that capability of doing those things, and they're not doing it.
And they have the brand equity too. Like they were a winning organization not that long ago. Like this isn't like you're trying to revive the Pirates or the Marlins too. Like
right.
It's just a matter of somebody caring enough.
Right. And they're a historic organization. You said that too, right? Like they're a historic organization that a lot of people respect, right? Like obviously in New York, we hate them, but like the Red Sox are a fairly well-liked organization for pretty much everywhere else. They're a massive baseball brand.
I mean, you hate them because they matter. Like that's a lot of what that comes down to, right? Like the reason the Dodgers have hated the Giants historically and not the Diamondbacks is because the Giants have mattered more.
Yeah. Tristan Reyes in the comments. I mean, anyone who thinks that doesn't know ball or at least doesn't watch it. Cora maybe put some weird lineups or something, but he wasn't the problem for bad roster decisions. That certainly is something that you said a lot. And again, it goes back to the front office. Real question is, where does Cora end up? I mean, we can't. It's hard to tell now, right? Because we're so early in the season, but. And I don't think any, unless somebody else's manager gets fired, like right now, Cora's going to end up nowhere. But I mean, we certainly can't anticipate Alex Cora being without a job for all that long. I don't know, Dalton, is there any place in your mind that might stick out to you just right out of the gate?
I mean, I don't know if my comment's showing up, but I commented down below. I think he's going to be the manager of the New York Mets by June 1st. Just because it I don't like, obviously anybody who follows baseball knows how upset the Mets fans are. We're about to talk more about them in a minute, but
yeah,
like if this continues, especially through this part of their schedule, like the Mets are in the easiest stretch of their schedule they're going to have all season. If this continues and they don't come out of this with a bit of a win streak, I don't think Mendoza makes it past mid-May.
Carlos Mendoza,
and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Mets very quickly throw a bag Alex Cora's way and say, "Hey, you want to give this talented roster a go?" And it could work too. I don't know.
Yeah. Now hey, listen, that's certainly possible. That Steve Cohen would certainly be interested in making that kind of splash. I don't think there's any doubt about that. All right. So yeah, the Red Sox suck. That's cool. Let's move to by the way, not just the Red Sox suck, but it's a really bad year to be a Yankee rival, might I say. Red Sox suck, Mets suck. Let's talk about that NL East. Right now, the Braves are running away with that division. They're 20-9, 6.5 games into first place. The Marlins right now are the second place team at 13-15. The Mets and Phillies, both with a 9-19 record, 10.5 games back of first place. They are the two last place teams in the NL East. What is happening right now, Dalton? I mean, you and I both predicted that the Phillies were going to be a top 5 team in the game still. And they've been one of the, if not the worst team in baseball so far this season. Let's start in Philadelphia, okay? Because this is the one that shocks me more than the Mets. What is going on with the Phillies?
Yeah, well, both teams, the story is somewhat similar, which is they're just not hitting. But I think with Philly, there's a little bit more reason for real concern. I mean, actually, I wouldn't say that. They both have a lot of reasons for real concern, but this is a Phillies team that is just kind of aging quickly, and you hate to say it, but this is kind of reminiscent of what we've seen from a lot of Dave Dombrowski outfits. They go out and they're aggressive and they bring on a whole bunch of talent, and then that talent kind of just starts to age out. And if you look, I mean, Trey Turner's hitting 230. Kyle Schwarber's hitting some homers, but he's batting 196.
Yeah.
Alec Boehm, 143. They're just not producing. And this is an aging team. Bryce Harper has been decent. Brandon Marsh has been one of the only bright spots for them. But they need their stars to be stars, or they're really ordinary in a hurry. Adolis Garcia has not looked different in Philly than he did near the end in Texas. He just hasn't looked good. JT Realmuto is a shell of himself offensively, and Rafael Marchand is not a good offensive player. And then all of a sudden you're having to rely on guys like Justin Crawford and Edmundo Sosa and Felix Reyes and these young guys to try to produce. They're just not doing it. I mean, Bryson Stott was considered a young up-and-coming star in the game a couple years ago. He's batting 221 and he hasn't homered yet this year.
Yeah.
It's just not working. The position player group is not working. Now, I will say this for the Phillies, they just got Zach Wheeler back. I think that will help. Jesus Luzardo has been arguably the most unlucky pitcher in baseball this season in terms of how his stats look versus how his peripherals look. I do think he'll turn it around. I want to thank whoever it was in our fantasy league that dropped him. I picked him up. This is why I don't draft starting pitchers, because people make decisions like that. But Christopher Sanchez has been pretty good, and I think he will kind of flatten that out a little bit as the season goes along. So I think the Phillies are going to be fine. And when I say fine, I don't necessarily mean that I think they're going to win this division or even that they're going to be a playoff team. I think they have a pretty good chance of it, though. But I'm not sounding alarms as loudly for them as I might be in other cases, partially because this is the number 2 rotation in baseball in xFIP. They've pitched a lot better than the luck they've gotten. And then in the bullpen, they're actually right near the top as well. I mean, this has been it's a top half bullpen and a top half starting rotation. They just got to hit a little bit more. And I think they will. So, it can be easy to overreact when you're a month in and you're 9-19. It looks really bad. I don't think it's as bad as it looks. But Atlanta doing what they're doing is going to make a division title really hard at this point.
Yeah. So Christopher Sanchez has just to expand on that, so Christopher Sanchez has a 2.94 ERA. Aaron Nola's got a 6.03. Jesus Luzardo has a 6.92 ERA right now on the season. That's horrific. Horrific.
Yeah.
So, but again, we'll see if that turns around also. I listen, they're 1-9 in their last 10. I do think that there's going to be a point where the Phillies start hitting again. As much as they've gotten older, I do also think that they're still really talented ball players. Like, you're not going to convince me that Trey Turner is going to finish the season with a 658 OPS. Like, his OPS is going to be up between 750 and 800. Like, it just will. Adolis Garcia, again, he might suck. I mean, at this point, Adolis Garcia might just suck. What they're getting at Brandon Marsh is really solid. If Bryce Harper, again, continues to do what he does, I mean, he's got an 845 OPS right now. I think they're going to find a way to produce some runs. And that's really the deal, right? Like, if they hit, then they're going to win they're going to win some ball games, because I think their pitching is going to be pretty solid too, up and down, especially when Wheeler comes back. They'll be pretty good in that department as well. Let's talk about the Mets.
Before we do that, Mike, can you see what I'm sharing right now to the stream?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about with Luzardo.
Yeah.
I wanted to put this in front of the audience so they can see what I mean. Like, the stuff is still playing. Like, he's going to stop being so unlucky eventually. So yeah. I get the 6.92 ERA with him looks really bad, but it's going to get better. Just had to put that out there.
Well, listen, you could be absolutely right. It could absolutely turn around for him. And a lot of that stuff really I'm a buyer into all that, because again, like, we saw what it did to Ben Rice last year, and look at what Ben Rice is doing now. So let's talk about the Mets. They were at one point losers of 13 straight. 13 straight. They ended their losing streak by taking 2 out of 3 at home against the Twins, right? And then they come back and they get swept by the Rockies. I mean, I'll just say this. Like, I don't think the Mets are very good. Like, I think, honest to God, I think the Mets are in a place right now where the changes that they made to their roster, right? Trading Brandon Nimmo, letting Pete Alonso walk, right? And essentially replacing those guys with Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, and Jorge Polanco. I just don't know that I buy that that's working, or that it's going to end up working, especially when Juan Soto's missed half the season so far. I don't know. I'm not all that confident in the Mets right now. Like, I have more faith in the Phillies coming back and fixing their problem than I do the Mets right now. What say you?
I completely agree. Look, this is a Mets roster that, like, I mean, Pete Alonso, for whatever they thought his problems were defensively, Pete Alonso mashed for years, and it was reliable. Yeah. And it was something that they
biggest biggest run producer for how many years?
Yeah. And they let him walk, and they decided to kind of half redo the roster. And the reality is, I just don't think David Stearns has done a good job. Like, I mean, you look at the hitting stats with them, it's pretty funny. Nobody on their team has more than 4 home runs, and Francisco Alvarez is the only player with more than 2 home runs. Like, they're not hitting for any power, and they're also not hitting for average. And I mean, just to talk through some of the specifics on these guys that they acquired, like Luis Robert, the concern with him was always, like, people kind of doubt how hard of a worker he is and how locked in he is and whether he'll actually figure it out. Because we know the physical tools are there. I mean, Mike, he's batting .224 with 2 homers. He's not doing a whole lot. Like,
right.
Mark Vientos popped off a couple years ago. The league kind of figured him out last year, and he still hasn't adjusted back. Bo Bichette looks terrible. Like, it looks like whatever they were doing in Toronto was working a little bit more than maybe he's working. Marcus Semien has been horrendous, not hitting for any power. Jorge Polanco, 179 with 1 homer, not providing much at all. Like
Right.
Juan Soto in his limited at bats is doing his thing, but this is just not a good roster. And look, it obviously doesn't help them that the moment Juan Soto comes back, Francisco Lindor gets hurt. But I think we need to be more honest about the fact that this roster is just not that good. And you and I talked preseason about the fact that the Mets were viewed by the market as this division favorite, as this 90 plus win team, when in reality they weren't that last year. And you can make an argument that this team just flat out got worse this offseason. And, look, I think last year the problem was more just they couldn't pitch than that they couldn't hit. And instead, they went out and got Freddie Peralta. Like, Freddie Peralta's been fine. He hasn't been great.
He's got a
Nolan
3.90
McLean,
ERA at 5 starts. He's been pretty okay.
Yeah, he's been fine. Nolan McLean has been the brightest spot on this team, along with maybe Clay Holmes. But outside of that, nobody's performing. Like, Devin Williams has been horrendous. Luke Weaver hasn't been any good. David Peterson looks terrible. Kodai Senga looks like one of the worst starting pitchers in baseball. It's just not working. And I don't know whether to point to the player development. I don't know whether to point to coaching. I don't know whether it's like a culture issue. Certainly a lot of Mets fans think it's a culture issue, which to me points back to the manager. But if I'm the Mets, I'm firing Carlos Mendoza today, and I'm throwing money at Alex Cora, because if there's one thing we know about Alex Cora is that he's a hard-nosed manager that will come in and get guys doing what they need to be doing, because everybody's underperforming.
Right. So I agree with you. Here's the question I'll pose to you then. Carlos Mendoza, I'm not certain is a good manager at all. I obviously he simply doesn't have the track record that somebody like Alex Cora does. But we're talking about how David Stearns is just this experiment did not work.
Yeah.
Does that fall? I don't know that falls on Carlos Mendoza the same way, right? Comparing them and comparing the Red Sox, right? Craig Breslow did, we've argued, he just hasn't done a good job in Boston, right?
Yeah.
And that ownership group has not done a good job in Boston. We could say the same thing about the Mets, right? They threw all this money at Juan Soto, and then it seems like they just fell asleep after that.
Well, I'll say this for the Mets ownership group. They're spending money. They're trying, right?
They're definitely spending money.
Yeah. I don't know that the Red Sox are trying as hard to win as the Mets. In that sense, I will give the Mets credit. But I think David Stearns, who's in charge of deciding what that trying looks like, has not done a good job at all. I'm just thinking if you're trying to be solutions oriented right now with the Mets, if you think Stearns is the problem, that's a change you probably make in the offseason, right?
Right.
If you're going to be solutions oriented about the Mets right now, and you're saying this team is 9-19 and they've lost 15 of 17 games, you have to change the voice in the room and the culture in the room. That, to me, that's non-negotiable. You have to do it, because it's not like Mendoza is a manager who has a track record, like you said. Even Rob Thompson in Philly has led that team to NLCSs. He's led that team to turnarounds after bad starts. Mendoza has no track record of any of this. He doesn't get any benefit of the doubt from me. And now that a guy like Alex Cora is available, who is known as a get in your face type manager, to me, it's that's why for me, while I think the GM's mistakes are as much to blame as anything, the GM's mistakes can't be fixed right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. No, I hear you with that. I certainly hear you with that. Look, the Mets certainly, the Mets and Alex Cora feel like a fit, don't they? They do. It just makes sense to me. A team I hate and a manager I hate. It just, it makes it fits.
One more thing about the Mets, Mike. I also think Francisco Lindor needs to own this, because it's not just that he's not hitting. Francisco Lindor is a guy that for his entire time in Cleveland and even for his first few years at the Mets, you at least knew the level of baseball IQ you were getting on a day-to-day basis and focus you were getting on a day-to-day basis. And he hasn't brought any of that when he was healthy this year. Like, he's as much a part of their problem as anybody else, and not just because he's not hitting. Like, he's not in the right place where he's supposed to be on any play. He's making errors he wouldn't normally make, and I mean mental errors. Like, I think he needs to take as much of a look in the mirror as the management does.
So humor me for a second, okay, and then we'll move on. Are we buying that Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor don't necessarily like each other?
I have no idea. That I would feel irresponsible to speak on that. I don't know.
So again, I'm a Yankee fan, and obviously I'm harping on it, but it's also like, doesn't it seem strange that Juan Soto did not speak to any of his teammates for the 2 weeks that he was out? Is that weird, or is that
not as weird as like people want to think? Like, it's not great, but I was talking to a friend of mine who works in baseball about this, and he's like, I mean, yeah, when guys are on the IL, they're kind of like away from the team. It's not, like, sure, you would love to see some leadership and see him kind of talk to guys and try, but that's also like when he's not in the clubhouse and traveling with the team, and you know what I mean? When he's not present with all of it, I'm not sure it makes sense for him to be all that much more involved. And just kind of reading the tea leaves on it, it seems like most baseball people are saying that that's kind of normal. So I don't know. I mean, I'll put it this way: it's not good, but I don't know how bad it is.
Yeah. I hear you. By the way, I just saw a graphic. I'm split screening the Yankee Rangers right now. Okay, Aaron Judge just homered, like literally just now. So Aaron Judge just homered. Ben Rice homered before that, so they just went back to back. So Ben Rice is now on 10 homers on the year. Aaron Judge just hit 11. So Aaron Judge is now tied for the American League lead in home runs. The two guys leading the American League in home runs right now, and I think it's incredible, okay, is Yordan Alvarez and Munetaka Murakami. Is that not awesome? Like, that's just awesome.
Well, I don't know. And they're kind of both awesome for different reasons. I mean, for one, Yordan Alvarez is a guy that you and I have talked ad nauseum about the fact that when he's healthy, he is like,
he's a beast.
You can make an argument that when he's healthy, he's the scariest hitter in baseball outside of maybe Judge and Ohtani to face. And like, seeing him healthy and doing what we know he can do is pretty cool just from a baseball fan perspective. For Munetaka Murakami, it's just got to feel so good, right? As a guy who like came over and all we heard was how he strikes out too much and how the adjustment to MLB pitching was going to be tough for him. And, you don't sign with the White Sox if teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox and teams like that are wanting to sign you, right? Like, him signing with the White Sox told us a story. And for him to come out and hit the way he's hit, I feel really good for him too. That's pretty cool.
I think it's amazing. I really think it's amazing. Honestly, he was supposed to be like the next big Japanese import, right? Like the next big Japanese star. And once he hit the free agent market, every single team was just like, like we just don't think he's going to like the Yankees were like, yeah, we would take him, but he would spend like a year in AAA or something like that's how teams were talking about him. And now he's, again, co-leading the American League in home runs. That's so cool. All right, let's play a little bit of buy or sell, Dalton. So let's throw this out there, okay? Buy or sell, a handful of takes, okay? Everybody knows how this game works. Buy or sell. The Phillies are going to finish below 500.
Sell. I think they're going to figure it out. I think that, we talked about the underlying metrics for Luzardo. Christopher Sanchez has been great. I think Zach Wheeler will settle in. I think this pitching's a lot better than it's looked. They already sent away Taijuan Walker. They're going to be okay. I think that I don't know they're going to division. I still think they're going to make playoffs and be a wild card team.
I agree. I think eventually they figure it out. All right, buy or sell. The Cincinnati Reds are a playoff team.
I'm going to buy the Reds, Mike. I
18
like
and
look,
10 right
obviously,
now.
yeah, they're off to a great start. But I think part of this is like a lot of those young guys that they kind of came up with a couple years ago when everybody was really high on the Reds. They're kind of in like a post hype period now as an organization,
Mm-hmm.
but like they're doing a lot of things right. Like first of all, Sal Stewart has been awesome. Like really quietly, he has an argument to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. 291 with 9 bombs already.
Yeah.
Ellie De La Cruz is doing what he does at a high level. Um, you know, it's actually kind of one of the funnier things about this team is Sal Stewart having more stolen bases than Ellie De La Cruz so far. Nathaniel Lowe has been like pretty surprisingly good for them. And if like Eugenio Suarez at some point, like he's a professional, he's gonna start hitting. And if they can get anything out of like McLean, Steer, Blade, like this is not a bad offense, but this is kind of a gritty team. Like I watched them play in Minnesota like a week and a half ago, and I really liked the at-bats they were taking late in that game. And we know the one thing that we can rely on here is there's a lot of pitching talent. Like the
Yeah.
starting pitching there is pretty good. I mean, Andrew Abbott has not been great. Brady Singer has not been great, but like Chase Burns has looked the part of the draft pick that he was. Rhett Lauder has been really solid. And, you know, eventually they're going to get Hunter Green back, right? Or is Hunter Green coming back at some point, or is he on a
Yeah,
long-term
I think
injury?
he is. I think he
He's
is.
coming back, right? So, and then it's same thing with Lodolo, right? So, like the fact that they're off to this kind of start, they're going to get better. Like, so I'm a believer, and I also think I'm not a huge believer in the Brewers this year. I think the Cardinals are going to fall back. I still think the Pirates are going to fall back. So to me, the Reds are the second best team in that division, and you know, looking at this National League, I think the second best team in that division is going to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it too. The only thing that worries me about them is that like the, they remind me a lot of what the Yankees are right now. Like, but their pitching's worse. Like, you know, like they're gonna hit a lot of home runs. Like they have a lot of guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. They're 30th in hits right now. They're 30th in batting average. They're 27th in on base percentage. Like, so it's not like they're hitting the cover off the baseball in these wins. Like they're actually really struggling to again manufacture runs. But I don't know. It's translating right now. Whatever they're doing is translating to win. So again, there's a sustainability factor to this that I'm not sure that I'm like fully in yet. But I'll say I'll buy it just because I agree with you in the sense of like the surrounding teams around them. I think the Cardinals are bad. I think the Pirates are going to be pretty bad. Like the Reds might be able to sneak in for that reason alone. So yes, that's where I'll sit on this. The Padres are a playoff team. Buy or sell that. They're 18-9 right now, second in the West.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be called a hater for this, but I'm selling. I'm not buying what the Padres have done so far this season, and they deserve credit for their record. Like they've won a lot of ball games. That's great, but this is just not a great team. Like so, right now the Padres are fifth in baseball in starting pitching FIP. Right, they're 15th in expected FIP. Like this is a little bit of fool's gold with the starting rotation. Randy Vasquez is like the poster child of that. His baseball savant page is hideous. And then you look at what he's putting up from a numbers perspective, and he just looks like this all-star. The thing with the Padres that I think isn't getting talked about enough, like Fernando Tatis is just not a star. He's just not. Like, wasn't a star really last year to the extent that we thought he was going to be. And now, so far this year, this is a guy that's batting 250 and hasn't homered yet. Like, it's one of the most absurd things in baseball that he hasn't homered yet this year. And I see Tristan talking about that in the comments. Like, he's just not, he hasn't been good. Jackson Merrill's hitting 214. Like, Manny Machado, if you actually watch them play, Manny Machado's moving slower. Like, you can see the age starting to catch up there. This is a guy batting 209 now. Like, that's just not who he is. Jake Cronenworth's batting 155. I mean, Gavin Sheets isn't putting the bat on the ball a ton either. Nick Castellanos has looked like a guy whose career is kind of on the back burner and almost over. Their catchers aren't really hitting. Like,
Didn't I see
this is
something
just
that Nick Castellanos was going to like try to play wide receiver in the NFL or something like that? Didn't I see? I thought I saw something like that about Castellanos.
oh man, I don't know.
His OPS is 404. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like we're getting close to trying another sport.
and look, it's not like I just the reason I mention all these guys individually is because like when you think about the Padres this year and how they were going to succeed, like we knew their starting pitching wasn't going to be good, right? Their starting pitching has been good, but it's been lucky. Like the expected stats don't match what we've seen, but the offensive dip is something we saw last year. This was a team that finished with a WRC plus below 100 last year, and they're still below 100 WRC plus so far this year. So to me, I look at the Padres and I see a below average offense, I see a top 5 bullpen, and I see a below average starting pitching group. Yeah. So they're going to win some games because their bullpen is going to keep games where they're at. And I don't think the Padres are bad, but I think this is a lot closer to a 500 team than a team that's ready to compete for a division. And I'm not even sold necessarily on them being the second best team in the NL West.
Yeah. All right. 2 more, and then we're getting out of here. The Astros will finish 4th or lower. So 4th or 5th in the AL West. Are you buying that or selling that?
This question to me is as much about the Oakland A's as it is about the Houston Astros. And this is one that I put it in there because I'm just so on the fence about it. Like I'm literally 50-50 here. Because we talked last show, which was a few weeks ago now, about the Astros and about the fact that they're scoring as many runs as anybody. They're getting unbelievable production from Yordan Alvarez, but they just can't get anybody out. Like this has been the worst starting pitching rotation in baseball. This has been the worst bullpen in baseball.
By the way, their team ERA, they're last in team ERA right now. They have a 5.97 ERA as a team.
Crazy.
Now. That's horrible. Horrible.
And the thing is, too, it's not like it's been super unlucky. I mean, they're 27th in baseball in xFIP as a starting pitching staff. Like they're just they can't get anybody out. Like let me look at the bullpen too. Yeah, they're 30th, dead last in baseball in xFIP from the bullpen. So this is not a pitching staff that's getting unlucky, Mike. They're just bad. Bad. I kind of feel like this Astros team is last year's Oakland A's team, where like they're going to be fun to watch. There are going to be a lot of runs scored in their games, but when you just can't prevent runs and you can't prevent runs late in games, it's just going to be hard to win. And God forbid Yordan Alvarez gets hurt and this offense all of a sudden craters. I don't know, Mike. Like we talked about it last show, so I don't want to beleaguer the point, but like this very well could be a 70 to 73 win team that sells at the deadline.
Yeah, I think that's 100% possible. I buy it. I think the Astros are done. Like, and I've said that, over the past couple of years, like they just don't feel the same as they did however many years ago when they had their core together. Altuve is obviously showing age. Alvarez is really the only offensive player they can feel proud of right now at the moment. And they're hitting, right? Like, Christian Walker's off to a pretty good start this year. Like, they have some guys that are hitting the baseball right now, but Yordan Alvarez is really the only true centerpiece that they have on that roster right now. Hunter Brown, obviously, I think is part of that conversation as well. But again, you're right. They can't get anybody out. I think they're done. All right. Last one, buy or sell. The NL Central is baseball's best division.
I'm selling this. And it's going to sound like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth here because I am going to say something a little bit negative about the Reds. Mike, the Reds, Brewers, and Cardinals, all of whom entered today over 500. Okay, the Reds are 18-10. Brewers and Cardinals are both 14-13, tied for last. The reason we're asking the question is because the entire division is over 500. But those 3 teams, Mike, have combined to play 6 games against teams with a 500 or better record so far this season.
Wow.
The St. Louis Cardinals have played 27 games. tonight's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates is the first game of the season that the Cardinals are playing against a team with a winning record. So I just like, it's a fun story what this division's been. I wasn't buying the Pirates preseason. I'm still not buying them now. I think this is a Brewers roster that really lacks talent. I'm not a believer in the Cardinals, but I do give the Cardinals credit because what they've gotten from guys like Jordan Walker, and they've seen some real actual steps forward with their offense. I think this division is better than we thought, but it's not the best division in baseball. For me, that's probably still the AL East.
Yeah. I mean, because you want to talk about teams that are underwhelming too. Like the Red Sox are 11-17. We talked about them. The Blue Jays right now are 12-15 on the year. The Blue Jays have not had a great start. And that's really kind of like a theme across baseball right now. Teams that we really expected or either were good last year or expected to be good this year are just not showing it early this season, right? Like I said, we just talked about the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. We talked about the Phillies and the Mets, but teams like the Royals are 11-17. The Mariners right now are 14-15 on the year. Like teams that we thought were going to be successful, they're just, I don't know, they're not performing. So I don't know. I think that's just a theme right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, I mean, it's the point's well taken because it's that way for a lot of teams right now, right? And this is kind of a part of the year where things can be a little topsy-turvy at the end of April. You know what I mean? Like it just hasn't been that much baseball played yet. I just am more of a believer. Like at the end of the day, take Toronto as an example, right? Toronto's what, 13-15? So that means 12-15. So that means they're like what, 2.5 games back of Milwaukee and St. Louis. Like that can flip so quickly.
I get it.
Like I'm a believer in the process with Toronto. Like they're top third in XFIT for both their starting and their relief pitching. Like this team offensively, I think will get it turned around and get better, especially as Alejandro Kirk eventually gets healthy. And I'm a believer in what Toronto's built there and their ability to turn that around. I also think like getting Trey Savage back this week is going to help their rotation a bit even more. They get him back tomorrow night. I think Baltimore is, again, I don't think they're a World Series contender, but I think that's a solid team. Tampa's kind of doing the Tampa thing. I mean, Tampa Bay had Ryan Velarde batting fourth tonight. And last I saw, they were up 3-2 on the road in Cleveland anyway against Parker Messick, who would be one of the best pitchers in baseball. So, like, I just kind of trust those teams more. You know what I mean? And even the Red Sox, it's been an ugly start. 11-17 is not insurmountable. I do think at this point, though, the Red Sox are the team I'm least confident will recover in that division.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially after firing their manager and everything, that certainly does not help. But all right. You have Hot Corner today, bud?
Yeah, I'm 0-2 so far because I know we're tracking them this year.
Oh,
and last year I think if we tracked them, it would have looked really good. But 0-2 so far this year. The play for tonight, it's tough because we record this late, and most of my bets for the day have already started. But it's as square as can be. But the Dodgers laying 1.5 tonight. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been a little bit disappointed in his last couple starts. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning in San Francisco his last time out. He's usually the kind of guy that recovers well from that. And I think him pitching at home tonight against an aggressive Miami lineup, I think he's going to get a lot of swing and miss on his splitter. Chris Paddock has just been horrendous, and he's facing the number 1 team in baseball against right-handed pitching in the Dodgers. So I think the Dodgers roll tonight. You can lay the 1.5 there and only pay about -130, so about 13 to win 10. To me, that's the best look left. I do have the under in that San Diego game tonight, but I took that at 8. That's now at 7.5 or even 7 in some places, and I don't think it's playable anymore.
So there we go. Hopefully it turns around for you. You see, we're talking all this crap about the Phillies and the Mets, about how they're not off to a great start. Neither are you, my friend.
No. Listen, hey, man, two bet sample, I'd say it's about a 30% chance, right? It's about a 1/3 chance that I go 0-2. It's just that's the way it goes, and hopefully we can get a winner tonight with the Dodgers.
And there we go. All right, that does it for us. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast exclusively on the Grid Network. Mondays, 8 o'clock Eastern. We will be here. We will see you next week.